Captain Elena Vasquez stared at the red alert blinking across her command screen. The message from New Geneva Colony had arrived 3 hours ago, and she still couldn't believe what she was reading. The Zephyrians were coming and they were bringing death with them. Captain, we're receiving more distress signals, reported Lieutenant Chen from the communications station. 17 different colonies in the outer rim. They're all saying the same thing. Elena rubbed her tired eyes. The human exploration vessel Endeavour had been mapping trade routes in the frontier systems for 6 months. They were supposed to be far from the Galactic War that had been raging for 3,000 years. But war had a way of finding everyone eventually. Show me the tactical display, she ordered. The main screen lit up with a 3-dimensional map of their sector. Red dots marked human colonies under threat. Blue showed Zephyrian fleet movements. Green represented Vorth collective forces. What Elena saw made her stomach drop. Both alien armies were moving toward the same region of space, and human settlements lay directly in their path. The Zephyrians were an ancient race of crystalline beings. Their ships looked like floating mountains of diamond and emerald, powered by the same crystal technology that made up their bodies. They had been fighting the Vorth collective since before humans learned to use fire. The war had destroyed entire star systems and turned once peaceful worlds into graveyards. The Vorth were different but equally deadly. They were beings of pure energy, shapeshifters who could take any form they wanted. Their vessels pulsed with strange lights, and their weapons could drain the life from entire planets to power their war machine. For 3 millennia, smaller species had been caught between these two giants. Some chose sides, others tried to hide. Most simply died. Captain, incoming transmission from Admiral Chen at Earth Command, Lieutenant Rodriguez called out. Elena straightened in her command chair. Put her through. Admiral Sarah Chen's weathered face appeared on the screen. Behind her, Elena could see the controlled chaos of Earth's military command center. Officers rushed between stations while holographic displays showed fleet movements across half the galaxy. Elena, I need you to listen carefully, the Admiral said without greeting. The situation has changed. This isn't just another border skirmish. Both the Zephyrians and Vorth are mobilizing their entire fleets. For what? Elena asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. The final battle. Intelligence suggests both sides think this war is about to end one way or another. They're throwing everything they have at each other. Admiral Chen paused, looking older than her 60 years. Human colonies are directly in the war zone. We need every ship we can get for evacuation operations. Elena felt her crew's eyes on her. They had signed up for exploration, not war. But when civilians needed help, there was only one answer she could give. Understood, Admiral. We'll begin rescue operations immediately. Be careful out there, Elena. Something feels different about this one. Our long-range sensors are picking up strange readings from deep space. We don't know what they mean yet. The transmission ended, leaving Elena alone with her thoughts and 27 crew members who were looking to her for guidance. She had never wanted to be a military commander. Elena had joined the Earth Space Service to see new worlds and meet alien species. War was supposed to be something that happened to other people, in other places. Helm, set course for New Geneva Colony. Maximum speed, she ordered. As the Endeavour jumped to hyperspace, Elena tried to push away the feeling that they were flying toward something much worse than a simple rescue mission. 3 days later, they dropped out of hyperspace near New Geneva and found chaos. Dozens of ships filled the space around the agricultural world. Most were civilian vessels, overcrowded with refugees from other colonies. But scattered among them were warships from species Elena had never seen before. Captain, we're being hailed by a vessel off our starboard bow, communications reported. On the screen appeared a reptilian face covered in old battle scars. The alien's scales were a deep blue-green, and his eyes held the tired look of someone who had seen too much war. I'm Commander Thexhai of the Andromedian Defense Force, the alien said in accented but clear English. You are human, yes? You should not be here. This place is death. We're here to help with evacuations, Elena replied. Can you tell me what's happening? Thexhai's expression grew darker. The crystal ships came first. They said they were fleeing something terrible. Then the energy beings arrived, claiming they were chasing the crystals. Both sides started fighting and we were caught in the middle. He gestured toward the planet below, where the lights of cities flickered like dying stars. 3 million refugees are trapped down there. The fighting gets worse every hour. Elena studied the tactical display. She could see Zephyrian crystal ships engaging Vorth energy vessels in brutal combat near the system's outer planets. The weapons they used turned space itself into a kaleidoscope of destruction. Commander, you said the Zephyrians claimed they were fleeing something. Fleeing what? Thexai was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. They would not say, but I have fought in this war for 40 years, Captain. I have seen the Crystal Ones face extinction without fear. Whatever made them run, it must be something beyond imagining. Before Elena could respond, her sensor officer called out in alarm. Captain, I'm reading massive gravitational distortions at the edge of the system. Something big is coming out of hyperspace. The main screen shifted to show deep space. At first there was nothing but stars. Then reality seemed to bend and shapes began to emerge from the void. They were huge, larger than anything Elena had ever seen. The ships, if they could be called ships, were black as the space between galaxies. They moved with purpose but remained at the system's edge, watching. What are those? Someone whispered. Commander Thexai's face had gone pale. Impossible, he breathed. The legends spoke of such things, but they were just stories to frighten children. What legends? Elena demanded. The Devourers, the Dark Fleet, ships that sail between the stars bringing ending to all things. Thexai's hands shook as he spoke. My grandfather's grandfather claimed his people fought such vessels long ago, before the Great War began, but they were destroyed, scattered to the void. Elena watched the dark shapes holding position at the system's edge. They weren't attacking, but their very presence seemed to make space itself feel colder. Her instruments could barely detect them, as if they absorbed everything around them, even light. All ships, this is Captain Vasquez of the Earth vessel Endeavor, she broadcast on an open channel. We need to begin evacuation procedures immediately. Something is very wrong here. As if responding to her words, the dark ships began to move. Slowly, silently, they advanced into the system. The Zephyrian and Vorth fleets, locked in combat moments before, suddenly broke off their battle and began retreating toward the inner planets. For the first time in 3,000 years, the ancient enemies had found something they both feared more than each other. Elena realized that humanity had just stumbled into something far bigger than a galactic war. They had found themselves facing the return of something that should have remained lost in the darkness between stars. The evacuation of New Geneva was about to become a race against extinction itself. Earth's government chamber had never seen such heated debate. Representatives from every human world sat around the massive circular table, their voices rising as they argued about humanity's future. Above them, holographic displays showed the spreading chaos across the galaxy. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the center of the room, trying to maintain order. She had called this emergency session after receiving Elena Vasquez's report about the dark ships. What had started as a discussion about refugee assistance had turned into something much more serious. The Zephyrians are offering us crystal technology, beyond our wildest dreams, declared Senator Martinez from the Mars colonies. Energy shields, faster than light communications, weapons that could defend our worlds for centuries. At what cost? Shot back Representative Kim from Europa Station. They want us to join their war. 3,000 years of fighting, and they want to drag humanity into it. Admiral Chen activated a new hologram. It showed the Zephyrian ambassador, a being that looked like a walking sculpture made of blue-green crystal. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Humans of Earth, the crystal being said in its recorded message, we offer partnership. Our enemies, the Vorth, consume life itself to fuel their expansion. They will devour your worlds, drain your people of their very essence. Join us and we will share the secrets of crystal technology. Together we can bring peace to the galaxy. The hologram shifted to show the Vorth representative, a shimmering form of pure energy that constantly changed shape. Its voice was like the sound of distant thunder. Young humans, it said, do not trust the crystal ones. They seek to turn all life into cold, lifeless stone. We offer you true evolution, the power to transcend physical form to become beings of pure energy like ourselves. Help us stop the Zephyrians before they crystallize every living world. Admiral Chen turned off the display. Both sides paint the other as monsters. Both offer incredible rewards for our assistance. But neither is telling us the whole truth. Senator Williams from the African Federation leaned forward. What do you mean, Admiral? Captain Vasquez's report mentioned something else. Dark ships that made both sides retreat. Ships that appeared just as the fighting was getting desperate. Chen pulled up Elena's tactical data. I've been comparing this with historical records. Similar sightings were reported 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, always at moments when the Galactic War was at its worst. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. You think something else is controlling this war? Asked Representative Singh. Before Chen could answer, an aide rushed into the chamber. Admiral, urgent message from the Kepler 442b colony. They're under attack. The main display lit up with a live transmission from humanity's largest agricultural world. The image showed Commander Jessica Park broadcasting from the colony's emergency shelter. Behind her, explosions lit up the sky through reinforced windows. Earth Command. This is Kepler 442b requesting immediate assistance, Park said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Zephyrian forces arrived 2 hours ago. They're not offering surrender terms or trying to occupy the planet. They're just destroying everything. The transmission shook as something massive impacted nearby. When the image stabilized, Park was bleeding from a head wound but still at her station. They're using some kind of crystal bombardment, she continued. It's turning our cities to glass. We have maybe 6 hours before the entire colony is uninhabitable. 2 million civilians need evacuation, but our transport capacity is maybe 50,000. The transmission cut to static. The chamber erupted in angry voices, but Admiral Chen's shout cut through the noise. Quiet! There's more. Another transmission replaced the first. This one came from New Canberra, humanity's mining colony in the Centauri system. The image showed Vorth energy beings moving through the colony's corridors like living lightning. They're not killing people directly, reported the colony's administrator, Dr. Roberts. They're absorbing their life energy. People just fade away, become empty shells. We've lost 30,000 colonists in the past hour. Dr. Roberts looked directly into the camera, his eyes wide with horror. The Vorth aren't just fighting a war. They're feeding, using human life force to power their war machines. This transmission also ended in static. The government chamber fell into stunned silence. Both alien factions had just proven themselves capable of genocide. The choice between crystal technology and energy evolution suddenly seemed less important than simple survival. Admiral, Senator Martinez said quietly, what do we do? Sarah Chen had been asking herself the same question. She thought about Elena Vasquez out there in the war zone, trying to save refugees while dark ships moved at the edge of known space. She thought about the millions of humans scattered across dozens of colonies, all looking to Earth for protection that might not be possible to provide. We do what humans do best, Chen said finally. We find a third option. She activated her personal communicator. Get me a secure channel to Captain Vasquez on the Endeavor. Priority 1. Elena's face appeared on the small screen, showing the strain of the past week. Behind her, the Endeavor's bridge was busy with rescue operations. Admiral, good timing. We just finished evacuating the Tau Ceti research station. What are your orders? Elena, I need you to do something that might sound crazy. I want you to try to communicate with both sides. Not to join them, but to ask them what they're really afraid of. Elena frowned. Ma'am? Those dark ships you reported. Neither side will talk about them officially, but I think they're the key to understanding what's really happening. The Zephyrians and Vorth have been fighting for 3 millennia. Why is this battle different? What changed? Elena was quiet for a moment, considering. You think the war itself isn't the real threat. I think the war might be a symptom of something else, something that's making both sides desperate enough to commit genocide. Chen looked around the chamber at the human representatives. Find out what they know about those dark ships, Captain. Our survival might depend on it. Understood, Admiral. But what if they won't talk? Chen smiled grimly. Then remind them that humans have something they might need. Which is? We're not afraid of either of them, and we're very good at solving problems they can't. As the transmission ended, Admiral Chen turned back to the assembled representatives. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm recommending that Earth remain neutral in this conflict. Instead, I propose we offer our services as mediators. Mediators? Senator Williams looked incredulous. Between species that have been at war since before we discovered fire? Think about it, Chen continued. We're the newcomers. We don't have 3,000 years of hatred weighing us down. We can see patterns they might miss, ask questions they're too proud to ask. Representative Kim raised her hand. And if both sides refuse to talk? Then we make ourselves too valuable to ignore. Elena Vasquez has already proven that human tactics can succeed where alien strategies fail. Our ships are small and primitive, but we've managed to conduct rescue operations in war zones that neither side thought possible. Senator Martinez leaned back in his chair. You're suggesting we position humanity as the neutral problem solvers in a galaxy at war. I'm suggesting we do what we've always done when faced with impossible situations. We adapt, we innovate, and we find a way to survive. Admiral Chen looked up at the tactical display showing the spreading chaos. But first, we need to understand what's really happening out there, and why the sight of those dark ships scared two ancient civilizations into attacking human colonies instead of each other. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would chart its own course through the Galactic War. As the representatives filed out of the chamber, Admiral Chen remained behind, staring at the tactical display. Somewhere out there, Elena Vasquez was about to attempt something that had never been tried in galactic history. She was going to ask two ancient enemies to tell her the truth. The abandoned space station Harmony 7 drifted in neutral space, exactly halfway between Zephyrian and Vorth territory. Elena Vasquez had chosen it as the meeting place because both sides could reach it without crossing enemy lines. What she hadn't expected was how empty it would feel. Commander Thexhai floated beside her in the station's central chamber, checking his breathing apparatus. "Captain, are you certain this will work? In 40 years of war, nobody has managed to get both sides to talk." Elena adjusted her translation device and looked through the massive viewing port. Two ships approached from different directions. A Zephyrian crystal vessel that sparkled like a jewel against the stars, and a Vorth energy ship that pulsed with inner light. "It has to work," she said. "After what happened at Kepler and New Canberra, we're running out of options." The past 2 weeks had been filled with desperate preparation. Dr. Marcus Webb, Earth's leading expert on alien cultures, had worked around the clock to understand both species. Ambassador Yuki Tanaka had spent sleepless nights crafting diplomatic protocols that wouldn't offend either side. Lieutenant Commander James Park had analyzed every battle recording they could find, looking for patterns in the ancient war. What they discovered changed everything. "Captain," Dr. Webb had told her during their final briefing, "I think the Zephyrians and Vorth aren't just fighting each other. They're preparing for something else. Look at their fleet movements over the past century." The tactical display had shown a strange pattern. Both sides had been slowly moving their forces toward the galactic rim, away from the core systems. It looked random at first, but when Webb overlaid it with star charts showing the dark ship sightings, a clear picture emerged. "They're running," Elena had realized. "Both of them. The war's just happening while they retreat." Now, as the alien ships docked with the abandoned station, Elena hoped her theory was correct. If she was wrong, this meeting might end with humanity caught between two angry civilizations. The Zephyrian representative entered first. It was taller than Elena had expected, nearly 3 meters of living crystal that refracted the station's lights into rainbow patterns. Its voice came from speakers built into the walls, translated from vibrations in the crystal structure. "I am Resonance of Deep Waters, speaker for the Crystal Harmony. Why have humans called this meeting?" The Vorth arrived moments later, flowing through the doorway like liquid lightning before taking a roughly humanoid shape. Its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I am Current Beneath Stars, voice of the collective will. We answer the human summons, though we do not understand its purpose." Elena stepped forward, feeling the weight of two ancient civilizations' attention. "Thank you both for coming. I want to talk about the dark ships." The reaction was immediate. Resonance of Deep Water's crystal structure darkened, and Current Beneath Stars' energy form flickered like a candle in wind. "There are no dark ships," Current Beneath Stars said too quickly. "The void holds only emptiness," Resonance of Deep Waters added. But Elena could hear uncertainty in the crystal chimes. "I've seen them," Elena said calmly. "My crew has sensor readings. Commander Thexhai has records going back generations. More importantly, I think you've both been seeing them for much longer than you want to admit." The two aliens looked at each other for the first time in the meeting. Elena caught something in that glance. Shared knowledge, shared fear. Why does this matter to humans? Current Beneath Stars asked. Elena activated her portable holographic display. It showed the galaxy from above, with recent battle sites marked in red. "Because your war is killing innocent people. Human colonies, Andromedian settlements, dozens of other species. You're so focused on fighting each other that you're destroying everything else. The Crystal Ones started this phase of the conflict. Current beneath stars pulsed with angry energy. The energy beings attacked our outer settlements first. Resonance of deep waters chimed in harmony with itself. Stop, Elena said firmly. Both of your people contacted human colonies before attacking them. The Zephyrians told Kepler 442b they were fleeing something terrible. The Vorth claimed they were chasing the Zephyrians to prevent a greater catastrophe. You're not fighting each other. You're both running scared. The silence that followed stretched for several minutes. Elena could hear her own heartbeat in the quiet. Finally, Resonance of Deep Waters spoke. The young species asks dangerous questions. Dangerous questions need answers, Elena replied. Especially when the alternative is the destruction of half the galaxy. Current beneath stars flowed closer to the viewing port, staring out at the stars. Show them the recordings, Crystal Singer. Perhaps it is time. Resonance of Deep Waters' form brightened, then projected a hologram into the center of the room. It showed space near the galactic core, but space that looked wrong. Stars were going out one by one, leaving patches of absolute darkness. This was recorded 600 of your years ago, the Zephyrian said. Our deep space observation post detected something moving in the galactic core. Something vast. The hologram shifted, showing closer views. Shapes moved in the darkness between dead stars. Ships that absorbed light itself. Too large to be natural, but too organized to be debris. The Devourers. Current beneath stars whispered. The Eaters of Light. We thought them destroyed in the last Great War 2 million years past. Elena studied the images. The ships looked similar to what she had seen at New Geneva, but these were much larger. What are they? A civilization that went too far, Resonance of Deep Waters explained. They learned to consume the fundamental forces of reality itself. Matter, energy, time, space all became food for their endless hunger. Our ancestors' ancestors fought them once, Current beneath stars added. Every species in the galaxy united against the darkness. The cost was terrible. Entire civilizations sacrificed themselves to drive the Devourers into dormancy. Elena felt pieces clicking together in her mind. The war between you isn't really about territory or resources. You've been gathering strength, positioning fleets, preparing for their return. But the preparation became its own conflict, Resonance of Deep Waters admitted. Old grudges, territorial disputes, strategic disagreements. We forgot how to cooperate. The irony, Current beneath stars said bitterly, is that our war may have awakened them. All this destruction, all this death, it calls to them like a beacon. Elena looked at the two ancient beings, seeing them clearly for the first time. They weren't monsters or conquerors. They were refugees running from something so terrible that even the memory of it drove them to desperation. What if there was another way? She asked. There is no other way, both aliens said almost simultaneously. There's always another way. That's what humans do. We find solutions nobody else sees. Elena called up new data on her display. Dr. Webb discovered something interesting. Your technologies are complementary. Zephyrian crystal matrices can store and focus energy. Fourth energy manipulation can power and direct crystal formations. Impossible, Resonance of Deep Waters said. Our technologies cannot be combined. Why not? Because the Zephyrian paused. Because it has never been tried. Elena smiled. Exactly. You've been so busy fighting each other that you never considered working together. But humans don't have 3,000 years of hatred holding us back. We can bridge the gap. Current beneath stars flowed closer. You would stand between us? Risk your entire species on an untested theory? We're already risking our entire species, Elena pointed out. At least this way, we're doing it by choice. She activated her communicator. Dr. Webb, are you ready? Webb's voice came through clearly. Ready, Captain? The prototype is online. Elena's display showed a new image, a small human ship floating in space near Earth. But this ship was different. Crystal formations grew along its hull in geometric patterns while energy conduits pulsed with controlled power. The UES innovation, Elena announced. The first vessel built with combined human, Zephyrian, and Vorth technology. It's crude, experimental, and probably unsafe, but it works. Both aliens studied the ship with obvious fascination. The energy flows are stable. Current beneath stars observed with surprise. The crystal matrices are properly aligned. Resonance of Deep Waters agreed. How did you achieve this? By not assuming it was impossible, Elena said. Humans are good at solving problems that seem unsolvable. We're also good at getting stubborn people to work together when they have to. She gestured toward the viewing port where the stars seemed dimmer than before. The dark ships are moving again, aren't they? Getting closer to inhabited systems. Both aliens were silent for a long moment. Yes, resonance of deep waters finally admitted. Our estimates suggest they will reach the outer rim within one of your years. Then we don't have time for another 3,000 years of war, Elena said. We need to try something new, something that's never been done before. Current beneath stars pulsed with what might have been hope. You truly believe cooperation is possible? Elena thought of her crew aboard the Endeavour, humans working alongside aliens from a dozen species to save refugees. She thought of Dr. Webb staying awake for days to understand alien psychology, and Ambassador Tanaka crafting treaties between enemies. I believe it's our only chance, she said. The question is, are you willing to try? The combined fleet hung in space like a constellation of hope and desperation. Elena stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned UHFS Defiance, watching hundreds of ships from 3 different species move in formation. It was the largest cooperative force in galactic history, and she prayed it would be enough. 3 months had passed since the meeting at Harmony 7. 3 months of frantic construction, desperate training, and careful diplomacy. The first attempts at cooperation had nearly ended in disaster. Zephyrian crystal technology and Vorth energy systems didn't want to work together. Ancient programming, built into both technologies over millennia, actively resisted integration. But humans had one advantage that neither ancient species possessed. They had no preconceived notions about what was impossible. Captain, incoming message from Admiral Chen, reported Lieutenant Park, who now served as Elena's tactical officer aboard the hybrid vessel. Admiral Chen's image appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Elena could see the busy command center of Earth's orbital defense station. Elena, our deep space sensors are picking up massive gravitational distortions in the Outer Veil Nebula. Whatever's coming, it's bigger than our worst estimates. Elena nodded grimly. How much time do we have? 6 hours, maybe less. The advanced scouts are already engaging the enemy. Chen's expression was grim. Elena, I need you to know something. If this doesn't work, Earth is authorizing you to use the quantum resonance device. Elena felt her blood go cold. The quantum device was humanity's last resort, a weapon that would tear a hole in space-time itself. It might stop the Black Armada, but it would also destroy everything in a 50 light-year radius, including the fleet. Understood, Admiral. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. As the transmission ended, Elena turned to address her bridge crew. Humans worked alongside Zephyrian crystal singers and Vorth energy shapers, their differences set aside in the face of extinction. All stations, prepare for combat. This is what we've trained for. The Defiance was a testament to impossible cooperation. Its hull was grown from living Zephyrian crystal, stronger than any metal humans had ever developed. Vorth energy conduits ran through the crystal matrix like a nervous system, carrying power and information at the speed of thought. Human neural interfaces allowed the crew to control systems that operated on principles their ancestors couldn't have imagined. Contact. Bearing 27 Mark IV, called Sensor Specialist Resonance of Stellar Light, a Zephyrian whose crystal form had been modified to interface with human technology. Multiple signatures moving at impossible velocities. Elena moved to the tactical display. What she saw there defied physics. Ships that looked like tears in space itself were approaching at speeds that should have been impossible. They moved through normal space as if it were liquid, bending reality around them. Open a channel to the fleet, Elena ordered. The main screen split to show the commanders of their allied vessels. Captain Sarah Kim commanded the human destroyer Indomitable. Warsinger, Crystal of Ancient Memory, led a squadron of Zephyrian crystal ships. Energy Marshal Current of Deep Space commanded the Vorth battle group. All units remember the plan, Elena said. We don't engage them directly. Our job is to buy time for the evacuation fleets and gather intelligence about their capabilities. Contact in 30 seconds, Lieutenant Park reported. Elena gripped her command chair as space around them began to change. The stars grew dimmer, as if something was draining the light from them. Temperature readings throughout the ship dropped despite their heating systems working at maximum. Then they appeared. The Black Armada emerged from hyperspace like nightmares made real. Their ships weren't built. They were grown from dark matter and twisted space-time. The smallest vessel was 3 kilometers long. The largest defied measurement, stretching across space like a living asteroid field. All units. Evasive maneuvers, Elena ordered, but she knew it was too late. The lead Black Armada ship turned its attention to the Zephyrian squadron. Elena watched in horror as it fired what looked like a beam of absolute darkness. The beam didn't destroy the crystal ships, it erased them from existence entirely. One moment they were there, the next they had never been. "What kind of weapon does that?" gasped Lieutenant Martinez at the engineering station. "It's not a weapon," said Current of Flowing Thought, the Vorth energy shaper who served as their science officer. "It's unmaking reality itself. Those ships aren't destroyed. They're being removed from the timeline." Elena felt sick. She had led these people into battle against an enemy that could literally delete them from history. "All units fall back, maintain distance and—" Her words were cut off as one of the Black Armada vessels fired on the Defiance. The entropy beam struck their forward shields, and Elena waited to be erased from existence. Instead, something impossible happened. The hybrid shields held. The crystal matrix absorbed the entropy energy and channeled it through the Vorth conduits. Instead of being unmade, the beam's power was converted and redirected back at the enemy ship. For the first time in recorded history, a Black Armada vessel took damage. The dark ship recoiled, its twisted hull flickering like a candle in wind. "How?" Elena breathed. "The hybrid technology," Current of Flowing Thought said with amazement. "It's processing the entropy beam as just another form of energy. The crystal matrix is storing it. The Vorth systems are redirecting it." "Captain," Lieutenant Park called out urgently, "I'm reading massive power buildup from the enemy flagship. It's 10 times larger than anything we've seen." On the main screen, the largest Black Armada vessel began to glow with dark energy. Elena could feel its attention turning toward them, like the gaze of something ancient and hungry. Then it spoke. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, bypassing their communication systems entirely. It spoke directly into their minds in words that unraveled meaning as they were heard. "Little sparks of consciousness," it said, and Elena felt the words trying to tear holes in her sanity. "You persist where others have been consumed. This is interesting." Elena forced herself to stand upright despite the crushing psychic pressure. "I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Human Federation ship Defiance. Identify yourself." Laughter echoed through space, not sound, but the concept of laughter made manifest. "Names are for things that exist in time. I am the Void Prince, Herald of Entropy, consumer of possibility itself." The presence pressed against Elena's mind, trying to read her thoughts. She felt it recoil slightly when it encountered human stubbornness. "Curious. Your species is unknown to us. In 2 million years of slumber, we dreamed of this galaxy's growth. We guided the crystalline ones and energy beings into conflict, weakening them for our return, but you are not in our dreams." Elena realized with growing horror that the entire galactic war had been orchestrated by these beings. Thousands of years of conflict, billions of deaths, all designed to prepare the galaxy for consumption. "Why?" she asked. "Conflict creates entropy. Entropy feeds us. We slept until the galaxy grew rich enough to be worth harvesting." The Void. Prince's attention focused more intently on the Defiance. "But your interference has changed the equation. You have united our prey, made them stronger." Elena saw the truth in those words. The cooperation between humans, Zephyrians, and Vorth wasn't just about building better weapons. It was about creating something the Black Armada couldn't understand or predict. "You're afraid," she realized. The psychic pressure increased until Elena thought her skull might crack. "We do not know fear. We are entropy itself." "Then why are you talking to us instead of just erasing us like the others?" Silence stretched across space. When the Void Prince spoke again, its voice carried something Elena had never expected to hear from a cosmic horror. "Uncertainty. Your hybrid technology should not exist. Your cooperation should be impossible. Your species defies the patterns we have observed for eons." Elena felt a spark of hope. If the Black Armada couldn't predict human behavior, maybe there was still a chance. "Captain," Lieutenant Park whispered urgently, "long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements. More Black Armada ships are coming. Hundreds of them. Elena looked at the tactical display. The dots representing enemy vessels stretched across the screen like a spreading infection. Even if their hybrid technology could stand against individual ships, they would be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. The Void Prince seemed to read her thoughts. Yes, little spark, you have impressed us with your novelty. But novelty is not enough. Soon, all realities will feed our endless hunger. As if summoned by its words, the main Black Armada fleet began to emerge from hyperspace. Elena watched hundreds of dark ships materialize, each one capable of erasing entire star systems from existence. The united fleet that had seemed so impressive minutes ago now looked pathetically small. All ships, Elena broadcast on the fleet frequency, prepare for the fight of our lives. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every species, every world, every child who deserves a chance to see tomorrow. As the Black Armada began its advance, Elena made a silent promise. Humanity had spent its entire history facing impossible odds and finding ways to survive. Today would not be the day that streak ended. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin. The space around the galactic core burned with impossible fires. Elena watched from the command deck of the UHFS Indomitable as the largest space battle in galactic history raged across 3 dimensions. Ships from 12 different species fought side by side against the advancing darkness, their combined technologies creating weapons and defenses that should not have been possible. But it wasn't enough. Captain, we've lost another wing of Andromedian fighters, reported Lieutenant Park. His voice remained steady, but Elena could see the strain in his eyes. They had been fighting for 18 hours straight, and the Black Armada kept coming. Elena studied the tactical display. What had started as a fleet of hundreds had been whittled down to barely 50 operational vessels. The Black Armada's entropy weapons continued to erase ships from existence, removing them not just from the battlefield but from history itself. Yet they were still fighting. The hybrid technology had proven more effective than anyone dared hope. Human innovation, combined with Zephyrian crystal matrices and Vorth energy systems, created shields and weapons that could actually damage the dark ships. For every vessel they lost, the Allied fleet managed to destroy 2 or 3 enemy ships. The problem was mathematics. The Black Armada had thousands of vessels. Incoming transmission from Captain Kim on the Defiance. Communications reported. Sarah Kim's face appeared on screen, showing the stress of command. Behind her, the Defiance's hybrid systems pulsed with combined crystal and energy technology. Elena, our boarding teams have managed to penetrate one of their smaller ships. What they found, you need to see this. The transmission switched to helmet camera footage from Marine Sergeant Torres. Elena watched as the human soldier, protected by Zephyrian crystal armor and Vorth energy shields, moved through corridors that hurt to look at. The walls seemed to bend inward on themselves, and the floor existed in too many dimensions at once. The ship isn't just dark matter, Torres reported, his voice distorted by the translation systems. It's made from collapsed possibilities. Every corridor represents a different version of reality that these things consumed. The camera showed Torres approaching what might have been the ship's control center. Inside, a creature waited that defied description. It was the absence of something that should have been there, a hole in reality shaped like intelligence. The crew aren't separate beings, Torres continued. They're fragments of civilizations that the Black Armada devoured. I can hear voices in the walls, entire species crying out from inside this thing. Elena felt sick. The Black Armada didn't just destroy civilizations. They absorbed them, turning their victims into components of their ships. The transmission cut back to Captain Kim. Elena, there's something else. Dr. Webb thinks he's found a pattern in their behavior. Something about how they respond to self-sacrifice. Before Elena could respond, proximity alarms began screaming throughout the Indomitable. On the main display, she could see the Void Prince's flagship approaching. The massive vessel dwarfed everything else in the battle, its dark bulk stretching across kilometers of space. All hands, brace for impact, Elena ordered. The entropy beam that struck them was unlike anything they had faced before. Elena felt it trying to erase not just her ship, but the very concept of her ship from reality. The hybrid shield strained and buckled, crystal matrices cracking under the assault while Vorth energy systems overloaded. But they held. More importantly, the feedback pulse that struck the Void Prince's ship was massive. Dark hull plates began to flicker and fade as the flagship took serious damage for the first time in the battle. The Void Prince's voice echoed across space, no longer amused but genuinely angry. Impossible. Your small sparks of consciousness should have been extinguished long ago. Elena activated the fleet-wide communications system. All ships concentrate fire on the flagship. We've heard it once, we can do it again. The remaining vessels of the Allied fleet converged on the Void Prince's ship, their hybrid weapons carving wounds in its impossible hull. But Elena knew they were running out of time. Their ammunition was depleting, their energy reserves dropping, and more Black Armada ships kept arriving. That's when she noticed something strange on the long-range sensors. Ships were approaching from the direction of inhabited space, but these weren't military vessels. They were civilian transports, colony ships, even luxury liners. Captain, Lieutenant Martinez called out from the sensor station. I'm reading over 3,000 civilian vessels approaching our position. All species, all ship types. They're not armed for battle. Elena's throat tightened. They're coming to help. The civilian fleet spread out across the battlefield not to fight but to rescue. Transport ships moved between the combatants, pulling survivors from damaged vessels. Colony ships extended their shields to protect wounded warships. Even luxury liners had been converted into mobile hospitals. On the communication channels, Elena could hear voices from dozens of species. This is the Zephyrian transport crystal song. We're here to evacuate your wounded. Vorth medical vessel Current of Healing offering assistance to any ship in need. Human freighter Lucky Strike. We may not have weapons, but we brought supplies and medical teams. Elena realized that the cooperation they had started among military forces had spread throughout civilian populations. Entire civilizations were putting aside millennia of hatred to stand together against extinction. The Void Prince seemed to sense the change in the battlefield's dynamics. Its voice, when it came again, carried something Elena had never expected, from a cosmic horror, confusion. This is not possible. Civilizations do not unite. Species do not sacrifice for strangers. Entropy always increases. Elena activated her personal communication system, broadcasting directly to the enemy flagship. You're wrong about everything. You've spent so long consuming and destroying that you've forgotten what creation looks like. Creation is temporary. Entropy is eternal. Maybe, Elena admitted, but temporary doesn't mean meaningless. Every act of kindness, every moment of cooperation, every time someone chooses to help a stranger, those things matter, even if they don't last forever. The Void Prince's response came as another massive entropy beam, this one targeting the civilian vessels. Elena watched in horror as the dark energy swept toward a Zephyrian hospital ship, filled with wounded from all species. Without thinking, she ordered the Indomitable into the beam's path. The entropy weapon struck them directly. Elena felt her ship beginning to fade from reality, felt her crew being erased from history. But as they dissolved, something unexpected happened. The feedback pulse from their sacrifice was enormous, striking not just the Void Prince's ship but somehow connecting to every Black Armada vessel in the battle. For a moment, Elena experienced something impossible. Through the hybrid technology's quantum entanglement, she felt the consciousness of everyone in the Allied fleet. Human determination, Zephyrian harmony, Vorth flow state, and the hopes of dozens of other species merged into a single moment of absolute unity. The Black Armada, creatures of pure entropy, tried to process this experience and failed. The concept of willing self-sacrifice for strangers created feedback loops in their consciousness that they couldn't resolve. Elena found herself still alive, standing on a bridge that shouldn't exist as reality reasserted itself around them. The Indomitable had been restored, pulled back from non-existence by the sheer force of everyone in the fleet refusing to let them be erased. On the tactical display, she could see the Black Armada ships flickering like candles in wind. The Void Prince's flagship was transforming, its dark hull beginning to glow with inner light. What have you done to us? The Void Prince asked, its voice now carrying wonder instead of rage. We showed you what you forgot, Elena said simply. You were probably a normal species once before you learned to consume entropy. You forgot that consciousness isn't just about taking, it's about giving. The transformation spread through the Black Armada fleet. Ships that had been holes in reality began to shine with possibility. The crew members that Sergeant Torres had seen, The absorbed remnants of dead civilizations began to separate from their ships, restored to individual existence. The Void Prince's voice, when it came again, was different, smaller, more uncertain. We remember now. We were the architects. We built wonders between the stars, but we grew afraid of ending, so we learned to consume time itself to make ourselves eternal. Eternity without growth isn't life, Elena said. It's just existence. Yes. The voice was quieter now, almost childlike. We became so afraid of entropy that we became entropy itself. We forgot that endings make beginnings possible. Across the battlefield, the Black Armada vessels were dissolving, not into nothingness but into light and possibility. The energy they released began to coalesce into new forms, planets, stars, entire solar systems blooming into existence where moments before there had been only darkness. "Captain," Lieutenant Park called out in amazement, "sensors are detecting the formation of 17 new star systems in our immediate area. The energy release is creating matter on a scale we've never seen." Elena watched the birth of worlds through the main viewer. Where the Black Armada had brought ending, their transformation was bringing beginning.